Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska and welcome to my channel if you're new. It's great to have you here. So this week's video is a little bit different to anything I've done before actually, and it's all about the impact that weightlifting or resistance training has on your voice. And this has been inspired by something I've been doing more of in my own life, because I actually really enjoy lifting weights. I mean, not in any kind of crazy competitive way, but I genuinely just really enjoy lifting weights in the gym. But it's not something I've done a lot of in the last few years. I've always focused on Pilates and yoga and that type of thing, but I really felt like I wanted to do a bit more strength training. And so when I went to the gym and I started working with a personal trainer, when he was taking me through the technique of lifting weights, I realized, and I said to him at the time, I said, this is completely opposite to what I would do as a singer and as a speaker in terms of my breath. So it got me thinking, and I wanted to kind of do a bit more research on this and hopefully help you understand this more. So if you are someone that enjoys weightlifting or resistance training, but also needs your voice in your business or career, particularly if you're a singer, then this video is for you. So weightlifters will often use something called the Valsalvar Manoeuvre. And essentially what this does is it creates a lot of internal pressure in the torso. So that is intrathoracic and intra-abdominal pressure, which helps to give the body some stability and strength when it's lifting heavy weights. Now, in terms of the breath, what you're trained to do with this technique is to actually hold your breath against a closed glottis. So the glottis is the space between the vocal folds. When we're speaking, the vocal folds are vibrating and the air's kind of flowing. When we're not speaking and we're just breathing, the vocal folds are open and the air can just flow. So this idea is they come together tightly and they create this subglottal pressure, which is what we're talking about, to create this pressure in the torso. The problem with this is often, so you do your rep against this closed glottis, then you release the air, but often you're releasing the air against very tight vocal folds. So you're not fully opening them, there's still a tightness there. So essentially there's just a lot of tension and constriction around the larynx and in the larynx. Now, the interesting thing is we all naturally use this to some extent in our day-to-day lives, not necessarily every day, but if you've ever lifted anything heavy, you might be going, you know, that's a very common reaction for us all. Going to the toilet is another one. And also for women in childbirth again. So the idea again is we're creating this pressure, which gives the body this extra stability and extra strength. So what is the impact on the voice and why does this even matter? Well, it can cause what we call phonotrauma. And in this book, The Vocal Athlete, which is by Wendy LeBourne and Marcy Rosenberg, they talk about phonotrauma in more depth, but essentially their definition is that phonotrauma is vocal behavior that impacts vocal fold or vocal cord vibration in a manner that compromises their integrity. So weightlifting and resistance training can fall into the phonotrauma category if it's accompanied with vocal strain and grunting. And one of the things that's become really apparent to me as someone that's not really a gym goer and hasn't been until recently is there's a lot of noise from people when they're lifting weights. When they're lifting weights. And so what we're hearing is all of this constriction and tension through the throat and the larynx. So some of the things from a voice perspective that you might experience from the Valsalvar Manoeuvre, assuming that you're doing this regularly. So if you just do it one off and you lift something heavy every now and then, it's not going to make much of a difference. But I'm talking here about people that are using this perhaps daily, perhaps for long periods of time each day. So first of all, number one is excessive neck tension. And we know that when the neck is tense, it has a direct impact on the functionality and the ease of the voice. Number two, squeezed or pressed vocal folds or vocal cords. So remembering we were talking about in the technique that we're squeezing them together to create that subglottal pressure. Number three, sore throat. Number four, a headache. And number 5, the Globus sensation, which is essentially when you feel like you've got something stuck in the back of your throat. So Anna Rumbach and colleagues actually did a paper for the Journal of Voice on this exact topic, looking at the impact of weightlifting on the larynx and on the voice. And what was interesting was nearly half of the participants, so 46% of the participants, said they experienced at least one voice symptom. And these were participants that had self-identified as being weightlifters. What was interesting, though, was the participants that were solely focused on cardio, only around 14% of them experienced any kind of noticeable issues with their voice. And the most common symptom that the weightlifters experienced was the globus sensation, the feeling of having something stuck in the back of their throat. So of course, there's the huge benefits, the physical side, the fitness side of resistance training and weightlifting. And we're not taking away from that. I enjoy it just as much as everyone else. But if you are someone that relies on your voice, that needs your voice, then you have to just be mindful that it's going to have an impact if you are overly squeezing through your vocal folds every time you lift a weight. So I'm going to give you now 6 suggestions that you can implement if this is something that you identify with, to help you take the pressure off your voice. And you can implement some of these, just try them, see if it makes a difference. So the first one is to, as much as you can, avoid holding your breath. We want a free flow of breath as far as possible. We also want to try and avoid that glottal attack, that which you kind of, well, I see quite a lot in the gym when people are lifting really heavy weights and they'll make a lot of noises. So we want to have as much of a flow of breath as possible. So one of the ways you can do this is on the exhale is to use something like a s or a sh or a just to encourage that breath to keep moving, so we're never gripping and we're never holding, versus exhaling against tight squeezed vocal folds. Remembering that for optimal voice use, whether you're singing or speaking, we want continuous breath. We never want to be holding our breath. Number 2 is to stretch a lot at the beginning and the end of your workout. And this is something I would say, and again, I'm not an expert on weightlifting at all. I'm not pretending to be, but it's something that I have found has made a massive difference for me. I almost spend as much time stretching as I do actually lifting weights. And particularly for me at the end, I will make sure I do a lot of neck stretches and shoulder stretches, but I do all kinds of stretches, but particularly because the neck can hold a lot of tension, and the shoulders, which is all really important for voice use. If we've got tension through here, it's going to impact the voice. Number 3 is to add something like yoga or Pilates to your exercise regime, which is going to help just to kind of lengthen and open up the body a little bit more, and might help to kind of counterbalance a lot of the tension and constriction that we can create through resistance training and weightlifting. Number 4, and this is really important. So let's say, for example, you are someone that likes to go to the gym first thing in the morning. Let's say you're an early bird, you're up at 5 a.m, you're in the gym, and then you've got a really important meeting at 9 o'clock. So you've been doing perhaps more of the kind of holding your breath when you've been doing your resistance training and weightlifting, and then you come back to your desk and you're ready to start your day. I would highly recommend, before you do any speaking, to warm your voice up and just to kind of move your articulators a little bit more. Just get some movement through your neck, through your jaw, through your lips, through your tongue, and do some very gentle vocal warm-ups. Now I've got many videos on this, so I'll put the links below. But then hopefully, even if there is a little bit of tension that you've brought in from your morning session, it's not going to impact your voice so much. So vocal warm-ups, articulator warm-ups, really important for anyone, but particularly if you're someone that likes to do weightlifting, resistance training in the gym. So number 5 is to try and keep this more bracing, tensing breath pattern for the gym only. Just use it when you're there, and then if you can, try and get into a practice of the deep, slow and continuous belly breathing for your speaking. So that's your normal, that's your default way of using your breath. And then in the gym, when you're lifting weights, you might have to adjust it slightly. But the idea would be you don't use that as your normal way of breathing. And it can take a little bit of time. I mean, fortunately for me, because I've been breathing the kind of the slow, deep belly breath way for so long, the gym way is more weird to me, to be honest. But I can understand if you haven't done much of the kind of the deeper, slow belly breathing, it could take you a little bit of time to readjust. So that way, then you are not living in that kind of overly constricted breath pattern. Again, I've done videos on breathing, so I will put the link below as well if you've got no idea what to do and what I'm talking about. So number 6 is if you identify as someone that does a lot of weightlifting and resistance training, and you've noticed that it's having an impact on your voice, but maybe you've never thought about it, I highly recommend you go and work with a teacher, a coach, to help you with your voice and help you work with it versus, you know, giving it up completely. Because a lot of the things that you can do, like the warm-ups, like the stretches, like the practicing the lower, slower belly breathing, but if you don't really know how to do it and what that looks like in your voice, it's going to be very challenging. So I highly recommend, it's always easier working one-on-one with someone on your voice. It's very hard to do it yourself. And you can get so much from a video. It's really, obviously, really great to be able to produce these videos, but ultimately it's in the application to your voice where the change happens. So if you're not sure what to do and how to actually apply some of this stuff in your voice, go and find someone to help you. And I'll put the links below if you're interested in working with me. I do offer a 1-hour voice intro session to give you some guidance and some insight into your voice, to show you how I'd work with your voice and to give you some exercises and things to take away. If you're interested in that, you can schedule that. But also, obviously, feel free to check out my website as well. But I hope that's helped. This was a really interesting topic for me, as I said, because it's something that I'm becoming more aware of in my own life. And it's something that, you know, I want to be able to do both as well. I want to be able to sing and speak, but also be able to stay strong and healthy in the gym. So any questions, comments, please post them below. If you enjoyed this video, obviously, please do like, share and subscribe. And if you've got any ideas for future videos you'd like me to cover, please also comment below. But until next week, I will see you then.